All right, so I watched the Republican debate Saturday night, and it was very interesting, mainly because they're all crazy. Um, I feel as though at least each candidate is probably a little bit certifiable on at least one issue. Um, the biggest one I had a problem with, of course, was Santorum's view of contraception. He, they're all against abortion rights. They all believe a woman should not have a right to have an abortion, that abortion should never happen. Santorum takes the extreme position that some of the others hold, that women who are raped should have to carry their rapist baby to term. Also applies in cases of incest. Um, but Santorum takes things a bit further. And I never really took Rick Santorum seriously, mainly because he's crazy. But coming in second in the Iowa caucus and with South Carolina ahead makes me have to take him seriously, even if I don't want to. And he believes that all contraception should be banned. That condoms, the pill, the morning after pill, diaphragms, every form of birth control should be um, banned. And that's because he's a super strict Catholic and he believes that sex should only happen in marriage. And I'm okay with people who think you should wait till marriage. I think that's fantastic. If you want to wait till you're in your mid 20s, early 30s before you have sex, you're waiting for the one, that's fantastic. Go for it. That's not what the majority of people do. But my problem is in putting your moral beliefs on people despite evidence to the contrary. And I was trying to think of a great analogy, and I think I finally came up with one. It's kind of like saying, I don't want people to drive recklessly, therefore, we shouldn't develop and implement seat belts and stability control and airbags, because if we do, that'll give people a false sense of security. They'll start driving recklessly and increase the odds of an accident. That's basically Rick Santorum's view of birth control on contraception, is that if you put birth control and condoms out there, then people are going to be sexually active, and why would we want to safeguard them? And it's particularly troubling because all evidence shows that when you educate people on how to use birth control and they use it consistently, there's an amazing chance of success. I mean, those who use birth control correctly and frequently are much less likely to have unintended pregnancies, to contract STDs, all these things that are borne out by science. And I know I'm saying the evil S word about conservatives and, science, but it's true. I mean, it's an easily quantifiable fact that if you correctly and consistently use birth control, you're going to protect yourself. And I thought that the abstinence-only failures of the Bush administration had kind of convinced us that simply closing your eyes, crossing your fingers, and praying that people don't have sex is not a good form of birth control. The pill, condoms, morning after pill, all much better forms. But I think this is what we're really going to see in the next, 5 or 6 years. There's definitely been this swing back towards attacking contraception, whether it's defunding Planned Parenthood or personhood amendments. That's kind of where a huge portion of the right is going. Despite the fact that it's something ridiculous, like 90% of women, I think it's like 95, have used a form of birth control during their life. I mean, you cannot talk to a woman who hasn't used contraception unless she's, the Virgin Mary. And even sometimes women take birth control because it lessens the intensity and duration of their periods and all kinds of stuff. And so, of all the crazy things that I think this year's GOP candidates stand for, it's kind of their war against contraception. And on a similar note, I was listening to John Huntsman try to argue for civil unions but against gay marriage. And I've come to kind of the astounding revelation that you sound worse when you're arguing for civil unions and instead of against gay marriage than if you just argue against all of them. Because at least when you argue against all of them, I see kind of the consistency in your argument, and that is that we only want men and women forming relationships and raising kids, and that's the role of society. But when you're arguing for civil unions, which I think are great, I think they afford a bunch of protections, but when you argue for them on the basis that we're going to treat people with respect and dignity and, we're going to try to give them equal rights, but then you argue against actually giving them protections and equal rights, you sound stupid. And I know John Huntsman isn't stupid. I know he's probably the most level-headed person on there, except when he makes the Obama is incompetent argument, and then you realize that he's claiming the vast amount of his experience rests on A, him being a governor, but B, him being the ambassador to China. But Obama nominated him to that position. So the person who gave you your last job, that gave you the experience you're now banking on for your presidency, you're now calling him incompetent. It looks, it's like he has awful decision making, and that's why he elected me to be ambassador of China. No, it's silly. The New Hampshire primaries tomorrow. Romney should win. It's going to be important to see who gets second. Is it going to be a libertarian Ron Paul, or is it going to be the super social conservative Rick Santorum? Be interesting to see. I'll be watching it after class tomorrow. Talk to you guys later.